What's up, YouTube? Knight's Edge here again. Got another pretty cool little full review for you, huh? Maybe, I don't know. The Spyderco Dodo here. This one is brought to you by Ponds. Thanks, Ponds, for sending me this one and quite a few other pretty cool knives. So we'll go ahead, without further ado, and get into it. Let's check her out. Look at this thing, man. This thing's crazy, right? CPM 4V. This is a St. Nick's Knives exclusive version of the Dodo. They did have a couple of other versions of this one come out, but man, what a weird looking knife, right? Impractical, yes. Usable, yes. Odd, definitely. We'll go ahead and get into the whole ins and outs of the Spyderco Dodo. I'm kind of looking around right now trying to find, oh, there it is. Trying to find another weird knife that I'm going to use for comparison on this one, burning time while I'm talking and looking, and that's done. All right, so we'll go ahead and do a full review on this one. Go ahead and do the full measuring thing that I've been kind of, going on and off with. So tip of the blade to the end of the handle, you're looking at 6 1/8 of an 6 1/8 inches. Wow. Overall blade length, if you go from the tip of the blade, tip of that hawkbillish weird looking blade thing they got going on there, to where it meets up with the handle, you're looking at 2 and I'd call that 2 1/8. Sharpen edge length, I'd say 1 7/8, going up to kind of that flat right there. And I don't know how much sharpen edge you're actually getting on this thing. Definitely a weird one, a hard one to even measure, right? Let alone sharpen. Let's see, get out the calipers here. Thickest part of the spine, you are looking at 128 thousandths behind the edge, which seems like it would be fairly thin, but let's double check that. Behind the edge on the belly, I guess you would call it, 27 thousandths. Not especially thin, but not especially thick either. And the handle width, you are looking at 400, just a hair over 400 thousandths there, 401 thousandths on that handle width. Let's go ahead and do some size comparisons. This is going to be fun. This will show you guys how crazy this one is. We'll go ahead and do it a little bit of reverse here. That is the Demco Knives 8020S full-size American-made Demco knife, and that is your Demco Knives 8020.5. That's a slicer variant right there. So you can see it's definitely a smaller knife. What I would consider close to maybe baby banter size. Maybe a couple of other ones here I'll do comparisons with to kind of show you that. But let's go ahead and compare it to some Spydercos. So all the rest of the comparisons, bar the DeWalt, are going to be Spyderco from here on out. That is your Spyderco Knives Paramilitary 2 and your Spyderco Knives Para 3 up next to the Dodo. Again, Golden, Colorado, USA made knives, just like the Dodo. All right. The Mannix 2. The Spyderco Native 5, actually, right there. All right. So Native 5 getting a little bit closer to the size of the Dodo, right? But still, the Dodo is a good bit smaller. Maybe the handle is about the same as that. Let's double check that. Actually, no. The handle on the Dodo is bigger than the handle on the Native 5, so that's pretty crazy. Let's see, here's a small one. This is the Spyderco Knives Little Native, right? Smaller version of the Native 5. So that is more practical, I would say, smaller Spyderco. And here's a weird Spyderco just thrown in there. That is the Spyderco Masad Ayub. Yeah, definitely a weird Spyderco, right? Maybe even more practical than the Dodo. So I keep saying it's impractical. It's definitely usable. There are things about it that I really like, and there's some things that I think's just totally useless. So we'll go ahead and get into some weight here if I can get my scale out while I'm talking. All right, so turn that on. All right, let's go ahead and close this bad boy. 2.8 ounces, 2.7 ounces, so a little over the ounce and inch ratio, sitting at 2.7 ounces, but by no means would I consider that especially heavy at all. Pretty good weight on it. That's one thing it's got going for it. It's pretty light. So we'll go ahead and put it in the old faded blue jeans. You got the wire pocket clip. It is reversible, so you can stick it on the other side. Got a good little bit sticking out, but that kind of, despite the non-deep carry, nature of it, that definitely helps whenever you're just reaching in your pocket. You want to grab the end a little bit right there and pull it out like that. That definitely helps. And it rides pretty smooth in the pocket. This is Spyderco's standard kind of, I guess, what would you call that? Maybe peel ply texture G10. I don't know. Let me know in the comments if you know, but that's kind of like their standard G10 going on right there in the the red and St. Nick's and Eyes, of course. Red and black is, they have a lot of Spyderco exclusives in that color. Let's go ahead and do one more size comparisons before I get chewed out. We'll go ahead and put the 8-inch USA made crescent wrench up there and your DeWalt framing hammer right there. Told you I was going to do a full review, and that's what this is. All right, we did the blue jeans, we did the scale, we did the measuring. Let's go ahead and check the hardware out on this bad boy. T8 is what I'm thinking for the pivot. Feels a little bit loose. Get a T10 out here. Hopefully, no, that's a T8. Where's my T10? Uh-oh, Rutro Raggy. Let's see, that's a T10. All right, so T10 on that pivot. Not a single-sided captive pivot, but, what do you expect? The name of the knife is the Dodo. Pocket clip. I'm thinking T8, but maybe not. Let's see. Yeah, T8 on the pocket clip. Oddly enough, the body screws, T6. All right, so you need T6 for the body screws. You need a T8 to swap that pocket clip out, and you're riding on a T10 pivot. So a lot of, I would say a D- with hardware, maybe. All right, so pulling the ball bearing back and shaking this thing shut is kind of a challenge. You could probably tell by watching the video, watching me flick it open and deactuate it. Not really, and I'm squeezing the hell out of this thing. Not really the easiest thing, especially single-handed, right? So you can pinch that ball bearing, and this is the ball bearing lock, so it's got a spring inside of there. Well, you can see how that little mechanism's housed. Let me get the flashlight out so you can take a kind of a closer look in there. All G10 except for that kind of lock housing, I'll call it, running on what looks to be washers. I think that's running on phosphor bronze. So looking at the inside, that shows you what that housing kind of looks like. But there's a rod in here that pushes, that is constantly putting pressure on that ball bearing right there. That is a steel ball bearing. So it is, despite its faults, a totally secure lockup, right? That ball bearing would have to break for it not to be locked up, or maybe something happened to that spring, which being as how it's riding on that rod, probably not going to happen there either. So that's pretty cool. It's definitely a secure lockup. I would even prefer a back lock over this though, because that having to pinch the hell out of that ball bearing to pull it back, that can get kind of old, right? So once it's right there, it is secure, and it's pretty cool being able to see the ball bearing lock. How whenever you're looking at, for example, the Manix 2, this is the same exact lockup, right? Same exact locking system. It's just got this cage, they call it the ball cage, giggity is what it has on it. And this thing, me anyway, I mean, you might be adept at using it without the grips on it, but me, I can sit there and do this all day long with that Manix 2 with absolutely no problem. As I missed the reverse flick, but pretty much no problem, right? It's pretty comfortable, it's pretty grippy, no issues there whatsoever. Without the grips, although it does look cooler, that kind of can be a little bit of an issue, right? So this point comes in handy in that regard. You can kind of put that on the palm of your hand right there, squeeze the hell out of that ball, and possibly do it with one hand. A little bit easier whenever you use both hands, but still, having to use both hands whenever they could have simply put kind of a cage there. That's something that I guess goes towards the uniqueness of the knife. It's something I don't like, but it is definitely a unique factor of it. Now, also 4V steel, very edge retentive steel. Give it that, especially this St. Nick's Knives exclusive version with the 4V steel. They do come in a couple of other steels, but this particular version, that 4V, is an excellent steel, very edge retentive. The blade to handle ratio on this thing absolutely sucks. I mean, if you look at this thing, you are looking at a massive, almost like pretty much a normal size Spyderco handle, right? Put it up next to the Manix 2. That's just the handle, right? With no blade. So you're looking at the same size handle as the Mannix too, but that's crazy, right? Whenever I take my hand off. Wow. So the blade to handle ratio absolutely sucks on this thing, but again, one upside of that is it is very ergonomic, man. Plenty of choke out spots. I wear a large size glove, I have average size hands, and I gotta say, whenever I'm grabbing it like this thing is comfortable, man. I'm dead locked in. I'm not going anywhere right there. That is pretty cool. Something you don't have to worry. Something you do have to worry about on a lot of smaller knives. With similar blade lengths is running out of room on the handle, right? Even with this little native, this thing is excellent ergonomically, but choked up, my pinky is, getting pretty close towards the end of coming off of that thing. But the way that the Dodo is totally locked in, especially how that goes up, that little swoop towards the end that creates that point. That's definitely 100% locked in. I have gripped full size knives, 8.5-inch knives that don't feel as locked in as I do with this one. So that is something to speak of, I think, as far as ergonomics goes. No kind of jimping up top, not really something I think is needed. It does have that kind of hump going down, almost like a plague doctor kind of looking blade shape. It does look exactly, I would say Dodo is definitely the name for this knife, right? They nailed it on that. Absolutely very unique, and kind of looks like a bird's beak going down, kind of a hawkbill, kind of upswept blade right there. Got a belly going up kind of here, but then it kind of goes down and sweeps in. So I would say maybe a hawkbill. I don't know. I don't even know what to call that blade shape. That's pretty crazy. Your thumb rests very naturally right here as well whenever you're gripping it in that full grip. So pretty cool knife, very unique, very ergonomic, but even though normally if I review a knife, especially a Spyderco, and I'm, guilty of being kind of a Spyderco fanboy, I guess, but if I review a Spyderco, if I handle a Spyderco that's this ergonomic, and it is very, very pleasing, once you get deployed ergonomically, it just feels awesome. But I would normally recommend a knife that's this ergonomic. This one I'm not, just because of that damn ball bearing lock without the cage on it, without the grips, man. That thing is a pain in the butt to try to deactuate without using two hands, without using your other finger. I'm sure it would wear in a little bit, but not really something that I would like to stick around for. So anyway, this thing is superbly ergonomic, feels really nice in hand. Ergos are awesome. Hardware sucks. Deactuation of that ball bearing sucks, although it does lock out securely. So some super, super polarizing ups and downs with this one, I would say. It is a USA made Spyderco, right? You can see right there, it's made in Golden, Colorado, USA on the planet Earth. In case you were wondering what planet it was made on, that right there, that's Eric Glesser's designer logo from Spyderco. And that blade shape, it does strap material, right? So once this thing's deployed, ergonomically awesome, cuts awesome, feels great. And with the 4V steel, definitely that blade will hold an edge for sure with that 4V steel. But the blade to handle ratio absolutely sucks on it. The hardware, kind of mix and match between T8s, T6s, and T10s. That's all kind of downers. And the biggest downer for me on this one is that ball bearing lock not having the grips on it. I really wish that it had that kind of ball cage, and that's something you could probably add to it. I would have to maybe look into it a little bit, but I think that might be something you could possibly add to it. Maybe not. Let me know in the comments, guys, if you know. Reverse flick also on this one. Money, man. Works great. Reverse flick works great. Big ass opening hole right there. No issues at all with that reverse flick. That is pretty cool. Reverse flick feels really good to kind of reverse flick that out. It's kind of a nothing factor, just a light blade right there whenever you're reverse flicking it. The problem with this one comes in when you disengage it. So really cool, really unique Spyderco. Awesome to be able to check this one out. Thank you, Pons. Hit the like button if you guys like the video. Would really appreciate that. Subscribe if you want more of this kind of crazy content. Do try to put a video out every day, or at least every other day, and do some shorts and whatnot. And I do live streams 9:30 a.m. on Saturday mornings, 9:30 a.m. Central Time. Thanks to all my channel members, viewers, subscribers, Patreons. You guys are awesome. And remember, whether it's morning, evening, noon, or night, Y'all have a good one and stay sharp.